managers, marketing managers. We want a lot of interaction, a lot of Q&A.
So we've got to be out there in the marketplace perpetually sharing the good news about what we've got to offer at our organization.
I mentioned cash flow. That's something that dealerships should start looking at, especially when PPP money starts running out, inventory starts getting tight, top line sales might start deteriorating a little bit. Just plan out your cash flow for 18 weeks and just keep it rolling and make sure there's no surprise down the line.
There's about 9 SKUs in tires that you need to keep in inventory, and you can satisfy 80% of the market. And that is another excuse that dealers, quite frankly, have used forever to not get in the business. You know, they take up too much space. I can't keep all the tires in stock. It's just not true.
We all know that gross is a state of mind, and you know, if you build the value, the gross will be there. But it's not necessarily anymore building the value in the product as much as it is in the process.
I think that's a monster opportunity.
All right. Welcome, everyone, to this Thursday's 3 o'clock session of D-Win. We come to you the first and third Thursday of every single month. We have a special guest on hand with us today. Of course, before we get there, I've got to introduce my man, the solutionist himself. Big wave from you, Sandy Cerami. And special guest today, Chrys Mulligan, better known to most people in the auto industry as the Millennial Whisperer. So, Chrys, we're going to talk used cars today, specifically retailing and talking about a lot about logistics and all the ways we become more efficient on that, because it obviously translates to a lot of extra profit for dealers. But before we begin, let's talk a little bit. I'll let you introduce yourself in terms of giving us your background and explaining what your experience is, and then we'll dive right in. Does that sound good? Mute. Unmute.
You got to turn your mic on, baby.
There we go.
There you go.
I'm Chrys Mulligan. I'm a former partner in a recreational and boat dealership, and I've done everything for the last 25 years in the auto industry, from finance manager, used car manager, and most recently general manager of a couple rooftops.
All right. So let me ask you something. What are some of the best practices, you know, when it comes to retailing used cars that you've seen in your career, but more specifically, as you've now moved into the consulting side, you know, depending on what side you're on, either the dark side or the light side, what are you seeing now dealers are doing, especially through this COVID period, that's translating to a lot of success?
Having their best employees handling the telephone calls and the operations from start to finish seems to be making the biggest difference on the consulting side. So watching from afar and having your top person actually answering the questions that are being asked in a timely fashion seems to be turning it from a prospect opportunity to a buyer who's ready to do something.
Yeah. So go ahead, Sandy. Did you have something?
Well, no, I think that it's such a critical point. I don't want it to be glossed over. I mean, it is really the difference maker. We talk about operators like Rob Ruth and like Adam Aarons, where they have concentrated their best talent at the initial point of engagement with a prospective customer or repeat customer. I think Chrys makes an absolutely $1 million point. And by the way, I want to know, was the dark side reference because he's joined the staff over at Sandy Cerami and Company, or what?
No, I think that, you know, that's just that's a matter of opinion. It depends on who you ask. So,
all right,
nine out of every 10 might think that, but not me, Sandy.
Listen, 11 out of 10 in my world are saying it's a good move for him. It's all good.
So, let's first talk about when you were running your store, Chrys. What processes specific to used cars did you put in place that helped you become more profitable?
So I think the process that helped me the most, and I'm sure would help some people right now, is acquiring the vehicles at the door as opposed to from the auction. So in any way, shape, or form through the dealership, I prefer to step up and spend the money with the people who already knew me. the car that I've already seen, the car I can put my hands on right then and there. I'm saving the dealership logistical nightmares of getting the cars to us or problems I'm not aware of by not having it there. So I would say that that's the number one thing, and I think that's the thing that would help people the most currently.
So yesterday, right, today, Tuesday, not yesterday. Tuesday, I flew up to Dillsburg, Pennsylvania with my partner and general manager, Joe Trujillo. We flew up to Bob Ruth Ford to visit Rob because he does an outstanding job on used cars. He's got this so dialed in to the point where he has converted his own office, sacrificed it, put 2 more desks in it, where he's got literally his buyers sitting there all day with him, and it is just constantly keeping that funnel of inventory coming in. But one of the challenges that they do face from a logistical standpoint is, when you're buying, he's a single point dealer. I should point that out. So he doesn't have the luxury of a large dealer group where they might, one rooftop buys a car from the auction, another one might buy 1 or 2, where they can pull that inventory and get, a driver to be willing to go out there quickly and get the inventory. If he buys 1 car from an auction, sometimes it can be difficult on him to get that to him quickly. It's one of his biggest challenges. Do you have any advice or ideas? And if anybody's out there watching and has helped reduce their time from purchase to getting it on the lot in that situation, please chime in on the chat. But what advice would you give dealers in that situation?
Well, I found myself building relationships through a lot of different avenues because my acquiring technique sometimes was unorthodox. So I would network through the service department as much as my customer base. By that, I mean, we would go out to other dealerships and look for the recalls on their lot in order to bring those used cars to us, and in hopes that make the point that if it got aged, we'd be interested, we'd be a player for that car. Also allowing us to step up on some off-brand cars, depending on the store I was working at. Those relationships turned into opportunities that I've worked at single point stores where we'd have to put multiple cars on a truck, and I'd utilize those relationships to share a load and make it a truckload, so it was worth it for everybody. Yeah.
So you're coordinating with other local dealers, even if they're not part of the same dealer group in many cases, to share that not the delivery expense, but make it more advantageous for these truck drivers to get going now. Correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a great example of the LTL philosophy, right? We're gonna actually aggregate, multiple different customers, same truckload.
Oh. Sandy, did we lose you? We lose you, Sandy? Sandy, you're muted. Sandy, could you hear us? No, you're muted.
Yep, had a little Bluetooth issue. So what I was saying is it's just like an LTL situation where we've got less than a truckload and we're aggregating customers in a similar geographic area in order to make sure we can get a full truckload and get those vehicles there as quickly as possible. It's smart.
So Squire Pettis has got a great question, and you were kind of touching on this, Chrys. What would you think the difference is in terms of time and or dollars between the auction hunt, what I was talking to in terms of the challenge, and then combing the CRM or service department for good used inventory?
I don't think you can beat the combing the CRM and using my service department, because you're finding deals as you're stumbling through looking for the inventory. So it's a profit center. It almost makes the auction not a necessary evil anymore. The cars are there. It's just a matter of, really, I found the mistakes that were made where I didn't empower the people that were going through that to step up. So like whatever range I gave them originally, they'd stay in that range, and maybe we could have gotten that car for an additional $1,000, and it was worth spending that money. I had to empower them and trust my hiring process that they were able to do that and allow them to go outside the box for the cream of the crop. Now, we had constant meetings to decide what the cream of the crop at that time of the year was, or when books were about to change, and four-wheel drive's good, not good. I mean, that's generally always good, but carte blanche on a truck. So once I recognize that deficiency in my process, it's limitless.
So I love that point, Chrys, because truthfully, a lot of times when we talk about CRM database mining, we're talking about taking a look at, especially in the Northeast, lease termination opportunities, right? We get so myopically focused on just the lease termination opportunities, and we forget about the fact that there are cash finance and used car customers that are ripe for the picking. And because we're not looking for them, we're looking past them to those lease renewal opportunities. I think we miss great opportunities to acquire some additional pre-owned vehicle inventory as well.
Yeah, we have to relook at that, because why do we have a lease portfolio manager but not somebody for the cash and finance? The cash,
absolutely,
it's a head scratcher. They paid for the car, they own it outright. We know that the best customer generally is the emotional one. Who's it easier for to become emotional than the guy who owns the car outright? So you have to find the like-minded people. There's plenty of naysayers, and I'm a guy who doesn't want that negativity around me, and I try to build a team that doesn't have it. So we have to always be looking for the hand raiser, the one that wants to do a little bit more, or wants the promotion, or can handle this piece, and then let them run, because they tend to turn this stuff into gold.
All right, looks like we lost Sandy there for a second, so it's me and you'll rock this, Chrys, for until he pops back on here. So let me ask you this question. So I love the way the industry has turned here and put such a focus on the turn and getting them up, because when you really dialed in, how much do you think it costs? In terms of the average amount of days for the average dealer? What do you think by the time someone goes out and purchases a vehicle, and we'll separate it in two different ways. One, you take in on trade, or maybe you find it in your CRM. However, you purchase it outright local in your community. But let's start with the auction. What do you think the average amount of days is by the time you purchase that at auction versus you have it back to your store, reconditioned and up and on your internet and merchandising it? What do you think the average store amount of days is on that?
So we used an outside company for the stickers and the buyer's guide. So our goal always was to try to have a 72-hour turn. I use the word goal because that's the perfect car that goes from start to finish. You didn't acquire it, have it drop at the lot on a Friday. There's so many variables in it. I think in all honesty, in the higher volume stores I've been a part of, under a week is the reality. And you just spent all your time trying to make it faster and faster than that. Now, obviously, your service department grabs them as the customer pays or later. So there's a cause and effect there in your process that you have to work through. Again, the size of the dealer I was working at affected that as well. The smaller dealers, you have a better hands-on approach where everybody communicates in the moment. You can have a quick 15-minute meeting with all the decision makers and make that happen. But in the larger dealer groups, if you've got your day scheduled in the service department and the people you have allocated to the used cars can only get through so many, especially with cutting costs and having less personnel right now, I would find that to be a challenge. It's got to be really managed, and your process has to be tight.
So Adam, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. No, I saw the same comment from Adam.
Yeah.
And I love it. Where you got a flat fee recon for mechanical and cosmetic. It's such a brilliant move because it facilitates the reconditioning process. There's also tools out there. There's technology right now that will help you manage the communication and the status updates on reconditioning that also include the ability to use outside vendors as part of the platform as well. The other piece that you mentioned, Scott, was, when we get it from the auction, the slowdown for a lot of folks right now is that there's just not enough carriers to get all the vehicles to the dealerships in a timely fashion, right? So we're seeing up to a week, 8 days between the point in time when you actually purchase the vehicle and when you turn it around and get it on the lot. So there are a lot of factors, as Chrys said, that are affecting turnaround time on recon. But I love Aaron's comment because it's just another way to facilitate it.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things my stores do as well, is we put a flat fee on every single one, and then we have a budget within each one that we want to stay within. Then you've got, obviously internal profit happening there. So, and that's a big thing about what Rob Ruth is doing. Hopefully he's on here and he can make a few comments. But like I was saying earlier, he's got 2 people dedicated to do nothing but buying at all these auctions just to keep his inventory flow moving. And they came up with a company. And if someone's out there and can think of this, he doesn't use any one company. He never uses the auction to ship the vehicles. But I forget, I want to say Central, I forget the company name that he uses, but basically works as a distributor or one connection point for multiple trucking companies, which has helped him turn around that time as well. So Squire Pettis has added on to something. So he's saying, let's say if we put a number on it, it's 800 to 1,200 per car. My stores is 1,000. Maybe cut that number by 25% and then offer that into the trade to get the car deal done. Got to keep some for the house. Any thoughts on that, Sandy?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think every dealership's going to make their own decision in terms of what they can swallow. But Chrys made the point before. I'd rather take the car at my curb, especially if it's a car that I know, especially if it's a customer that I know. And I'd rather spend a little bit more on those folks because I have an opportunity to ring the bell twice, put a vehicle into inventory, and then also sell another vehicle to that customer at the same time. So I have no problem putting a premium on those vehicles. I think it's just a matter of the dealership management team getting together and deciding what makes sense for them.
And Sandy, you've brought this up multiple times in terms of the CRM being the best source for inventory. And so Michael Ropo brought up a good point, mining the service customer base's mileage for opportunities. But I would take that a step.
100%.
Plenty of equity mining tools out there. Listen, just because someone has owned a car for a year or two, a lot of times we kind of think in our business that they're not ready or can't trade that car in. But some of these equity mining tools make it very easy where they can upgrade these cars for no money down, lower their payment or keep it competitive and get into a newer vehicle and just extend out that warranty period for another 3 years, right? So that can happen left and right. So not only would you look at the mileage, I think you need to look at those opportunities in those equity mining tools and constantly be mining that for inventory as well.
100%. Scott, to that point, and I love that Mike put that comment in there. What's up, Mike Ropo? How you doing? But the other piece is, you've got service customers that are loyal to you that did not purchase from you originally. And so we can't lose sight of those folks as well, right? So those folks that bought elsewhere but service with you consistently and loyally are prime opportunities for you to actually convert that vehicle they're currently driving into a used vehicle inventory piece and now make them part of the sales family as well. So I think that's a huge piece.
All right, so we've got another question here from Doug. What are you guys using for identifying your best upgrade prospects? Have you investigated other options than equity mining? It's a good question. And so equity mining for me is one of the easiest things that we do at our store
right
every single day. Anybody that's coming in on service, that's the obvious because they're going to be in the store and it's a little bit easier opportunity. But then we go outside of that and look for those opportunities and we market to them. So I'm not going to sit there and just make phone calls. I'm going to be sending emails. I might send direct mail. I might upload some of these lists where there's opportunities, whether it's into paid search or different other display like Facebook and stuff like that, and serve ads where and let these people know that there's opportunities where they can upgrade, put no money down and potentially lower their situation. And I think the equity mining. So I Doug, if you could follow that question up and I guess
just clarify if there's something specific that he's looking for.
Yeah. Give us some,
Chrys Mulligan and I have been on the road together for a couple of weeks now. And so he's now finishing all my damn sentences, and most of them with better answers or better endings than I would have given. But the truth is that we've talked about using your current sales staff, right, during down periods to go out there and take a look at and comb through the for sale by owner vehicles as well and pay a little spiff, a bird dog to them for finding a vehicle, especially if you can get a vehicle that's under $12,500 cost of sale. I like a little bit more of a bird dog for that. And then anything over 12.5 is a little bit lighter bird dog. But I would love to see dealers, take advantage of that opportunity because it's a way to drive income to your sales team or to your BDC as well. It really shouldn't make a difference, but also use that as an opportunity to increase your used vehicle inventory.
So Stephen here has a great comment, and if you're on the vendor side, you get this a lot, but he was obviously taking a lot of what Michael has suggested, and as Stephen helps dealers BDCs, he's looking not only at equity, right, but he's looking at opportunities where he can get some quick sales. And some dealers, it looks like, if I'm reading this right, might have been accusing him of milking the database just to increase his bonuses for his team.
Good. Keep doing it, Steve. Right?
The whole point is, if the sale is there and it hasn't been made yet, then thank God Stephen did do it, because it probably wouldn't have happened.
There's certainly a possibility of that, but I look at it and say, you're going to get the recon dollars. So what the hell's the difference, right? I mean, come on.
Correct.
When we make a car deal, we'll take a light deal. We'll take a loser deal, depending on how many days in inventory it is, for the swing at the bat in the finance department.
Yes.
Why is it different for this? Like we need to readjust our thinking and utilize that same brain space for acquiring a car as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
I love Adam Aaron's a great qualifying question. If I could change the rate on your car loan to 0%, would that help you? I mean, what better conversation starter, right? All we want to do is start a conversation, for God's sakes. Nothing bad happens as a result of starting a great conversation with a great opening line like that.
There's a reason Adam's sales continue to go up.
Yeah, I think he may be onto something. I might want to pay even more attention. Double A, my man.
Yeah, I always like to ask people, and even at my own stores, listen, it's easy to increase sales when the tide is going up, right? And the whole market's going up. The key and what we want to learn from are people that continue to maintain and or increase when the market goes down. It's easy to just go up and down with the marketplace. Adam is not that. Adam continues to grow regardless of the situation. Truly a great example of seeing opportunities in every challenge. COVID was a great example. He's always participated a lot on DWin, has offered a lot of great advice. So I love when he chimes in here and gives us some good
I take copious notes. Oh the alpha dog is in the house.
Yep. So it's a long one to read, Sandy. I'll let you handle this one.
All right, good, because the type is so small that I need a Hubble telescope to read it, but I'm going to try. My man, Mr. Jim Ziegler, the alpha dog, the one and only alpha dog, says, more than equity mining, there are vendors that will identify equity on everything on the service drive as soon as the RO is written. But, and I mean but, will also give you a soft pull on the credit score, how many other cars they own and how much equity they have, and have they shopped another dealer in the last 90 days. So there's a lot more information available to us. Thank you, Alpha Dog. And, are you leveraging technology to the max right now and getting a return on that dollar invested in that technology? I love that.
Well, and that's where I feel like, so Doug has been saying something along the same lines. Doug, just shoot you can do a cheap plug.
Yeah, Doug, you go ahead. Cheap plug is okay. I knew that's where it was going. I just had to pull it out of him.
So you can throw it in there. We have no
no subterfuge, Doug. Yeah, just send it out, baby.
Here to help people. Squire, let's see here.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, okay.
So you know what? Why we have Stephen commenting on here. How fast were you in terms of adopting a lot of the V auto type stuff, the velocity selling type of strategies? Talk to us a little bit about that, Chrys.
Early on, I was a believer that the internet was going to be the piece that changed the business. How fast it did it, I couldn't predict, but I figured so that I didn't become antiquated, I better learn what's coming up. So I was an early adapter. I totally believed in that. I've constantly been a V auto. I mean, we'll plug them there. I've been a V auto guy my whole career since that's been out. It's served me well. I've been able to walk into stores that were non-existent used car dealers when we went in, and in months, not years, turned it around instantly, doubled them up. Obviously, gross. Everybody thinks you're making less money, and it's just not the truth. You have your eyes on the reasons that a vehicle won't be on the lot. The broken tail light, the crack you didn't see, the smell in the car. So you're in these cars more often, touching them faster. So it's just not true. It's a better product that's out there, and you're making more money doing it quickly.
So I've seen a couple things, and Rob Ruth, who we brought up, James Baining, all follow the philosophy of understanding that the profit is not on the front, especially the way it used to be, even on used cars, right? That is starting to shrink as well. So where is the profit? It's the internal recon. It's the how quickly you can get it turned. And so people like James Baining, Rob Ruth, they no longer worry about managing or trying to sell the vehicle. And Sandy, on the fourth box last night, you said managing the deal or desking the deal from cost up. They want to get the car sold. They want to get it turned, and they're focused in on that. And what I thought was interesting, Rob was on Vauto for a long time, but he was half in, half out. It's not a process where you can kind of try and take the best of everything. You've got to pretty much, James Baining's the same. He's all in on it. In other words, these guys, and I keep saying Vauto, and I don't want to say that's what they're using, because I don't know. I know Rob is. I don't know about James, but the philosophy is similar, but they're all in on it. And I think the only way it works is you can't have 1 foot in and 1 foot out. You've got to make a commitment one way or the other. And the reason I like the philosophy is because as the internet makes things more transparent and the consumers are demanding more information and they want it quicker and they want it easier. So, that in itself starts painting us into what I call this commodity corner. And so when you become a commodity, it's in the marketplace wants to drive you there. It is because it tends to lower pricing, right? So we've got to look at it as opportunities. And I think this Vauto, the philosophy that you're talking about here, Chrys, I love it because it just takes it from a whole different approach, and it almost takes that as a benefit and just works it differently.
I don't know that I know everybody says that it affects your gross that way, but I think it's a two-pronged effect. Your gross is made on the acquisition, not the disposition. So it's based on what I put on the car. The velocity piece just means instead of me holding out to make $5,000 on the car, I recognize that I'm going to take $3,800 in the front, get my guy a swing in the back in the finance department. I'm going to move the car and utilize that parking spot. And coming from the Northeast, that's as valuable as any of the gross dollars you want to throw at me. And I'm going to move on to the next one. Now, we're not talking about doing that on a limited edition split window Corvette. No, we're going to sit on that one and you're going to make all the money. But on your Toyota Camry, your potato chip car that everybody can have as many of them as they want, no, you make a business decision and go, all right, my customers are coming in for this, and I'd rather do 50 of them over the course of the year than do 5 of them. But it's just a way of doing business, and I'd rather have 50 customers than 5 customers every time, no matter how you slice it up. So yeah. I just don't believe it's a gross thing. And the adapting of these products is the same thing that we resisted with certification. Well, that car can be certified, but I'm not going to fix it quite yet. But if you want to do it, I'll certify it. No, it's just you accept that that's a piece of the business, and look at it now. It's new cars, used cars, certified cars. Like it's its own piece of the business. This is the same thing. Just drink the Kool-Aid, jump in with both feet, and watch that you're going to do 5 times as many cars right away for pricing it right from day one, which is another key. Everybody, they decide when they're going to price it right? I'm going to take a shot at this for 30 days. Yeah, okay.
And another thing, Chrys, like what's hiding in plain sight is the fact that the simple, piece for me is if you're selling more vehicles, you're going to be trading more vehicles. If you're trading more vehicles, you have more opportunities to actually bolster your used vehicle inventory. So why not facilitate that velocity philosophy that that Dale has brought into the business, and just use it as a tool, not as a you know what we do? Let's manage by the rule, not the exception, is what you're saying.
Absolutely.
What I like about it is the data behind everything. It's a more controlled environment. And what I mean by that is you guys can sit there and measure, and it gives a general manager or dealer an opportunity. Yeah, it gives a general manager or a dealer an opportunity to better control their situation. And what I mean by that is this. All right. So, you know, Rob had a diagram, and I'm going to have to go by memory on this, but he had a diagram where he had, you know, this is where we acquire our cars. We've got a variety of different ways. We're going to do that through our CRM, through auctions, all the different ways, right? Once they go into this, they go into the part of the funnel that he calls logistics, right? I got to get it here. I got to get it reconned. I've got to do all that stuff. This takes a certain amount of days to get done. By the time I do that, it's up, it's running. I've got my photo, and part of photoing and getting it on the website. It's all part of this logistical thing. But he's then setting goals for, I need to get my average amount of days from this to this, if I'm able to do that, because a lot of things go into this, right? If we knock 10 days, if we knock 10 to 15 days off our average of what it takes to get that car bought and then sold, it probably translates, at least in Rob's situation, to an extra $200 in gross, not because it's just the car doesn't, you know, it's depreciating every day it sits there.
Yep.
So, you know, you can pick up gross. There's so much benefit to this, but then he's doing the math and he's factoring in, all right, I'm making net $600 a car after I recondition it through his internal process with the service. So he's factoring that into the gross, his average gross. And he's just saying, if I can improve my days, it allows him to manage the days in the inventory. And he's even doing predictive analytics in terms of what type of inventory. I think I'll do a cheap plug. I'm not associated with it. I thought it was Lot Pop. Not sure if you
That's
guys
right.
have heard of it.
Jason Rice. Yeah, Jason Rice. Yep.
Yeah. And so he works heavily with them. In fact, while we were there, they were on that call, an optimization call there. I mean, they're looking at what inventory he needs to have, how many vehicles he needs to have in the next 14 days. I know vAuto does a lot of those capabilities as well. And Rob does both. But, I mean, it really takes it from Hunchworth. You can remember back in the day where, hey, I'm going down to the auction. I think we'll need some of these. I think we'll need some of these. That should work. Boy, that's a good looking car. Let's get some of that. And then you show up, and then some of these things sit there.
Get me a yellow car. I need a yellow car in the front line. Exactly. Yeah. No, I think what your point you're making is something that Chrys and I have talked about a lot over the last couple of weeks, and that is, you know, utilizing the information, okay, and also the communication piece of it. Because Rob, we keep talking about Rob. I know Adam Aarons is doing the same thing. You know, a lot of dealerships out there that are functioning at very high capacity are using information and communication to get a predictable result. You know, Chrys and I were just exposed to an independent used car dealer that's doing between 600 and 800 cars a month. Okay, 600 and 800 cars a month. And a lot of what they're doing is based on the information that they are constantly looking at and monitoring, and obviously constantly having two guys doing nothing but full-time acquisition mode for inventory. But they're using information very, very effectively and communicating back and forth with each other so that they can jump on opportunities the minute they present themselves. You have to be ready to pounce. You can't be sitting there focusing on one of the old line metrics, you know, days in inventory, days to turn. We're only looking at the gross profit per retail unit. You know, we have to take a look at all of the information and draw a conclusion based on what that amalgamation of information is telling us. And by the way, I just want to acknowledge Jim Ziegler's ability, because he speaks fluent Japanese. As he mentioned before, Camry is actually Japanese for Buick, which I love.
You know, he brings up a great question here. How fast is the service department required to turn inventory? What's great about things like what Rob are doing and some of the more progressive and successful used car operators that are out there is that's another metric they're measuring. In terms 100%. Of when you're looking at this logistic thing, it's not just the transport of getting it there. It's how fast am I turning it and getting all of this stuff adds up. So if your goal is to improve it by 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, whatever it might be, and just so you know, Rob improved it by over 10. When time he started this process last October. So you can imagine the difference. And his sales just keep climbing.
And I'm curious, Jim. I'm curious with Jim's question. Jim, are you talking about specifically the mechanical and cosmetic piece of it, or are you including, getting it photoed, stickered up, etc.? Like, what piece of that are you talking about with respect to service department touching that vehicle? Because some folks are doing some of that internally.
Yeah, 48 hours was the internal. It had to be done in there 48 hours. Now, were there a rim you needed or something like that? There were occasions of that, but the service department, my own internal piece, 48 hours.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's certainly been a traditional benchmark. I love the comment that Matt Kellogg just put in there. Turn the spaces like hotel rooms. We go into a service department, we take a look at how many service bays there are, not how many technicians are in the bays, and we determine what the shop should be producing. Mike Ropo is going to love this because at the end of the day, if I've got a bay, I've got to make sure that bay is actually churning out flat rate hour productivity, and a parking spot for a used car is no different. They should all be filled and they should all be turning at a particular pace in order for us to maximize profitability.
Especially in the Northeast. We have the small postage stamp dealerships using multiple storage lots. If that car sits on the lot too long, how many times am I paying for a bumper? Am I paying for a door ding? You want to talk about gross going away? The velocity piece makes that done for me already. I don't have to think about that. I'm turning the cars. It's kind of like the restaurant business too. Similar analogy is, I have to turn this table. I've only got so many turns to get them in and out of the restaurant. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
So one of the things
Mike Ropo, go ahead, Scott. Mike Ropo had a comment, but go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, we'll come right to it. But one of the things that Rob is doing, it's also changed the type of vehicles he's getting. He's thinking, when I buy certain vehicles, which ones will I be able to turn quicker and get through recon, have less issues with, things such as that. So there are also standard things that you can do to speed up your recon, right? There are things that you're probably doing, whether it's oil changes, things like that. So one of the things our stores do is we've got boxes of the parts that we know these vehicles are going to need. So when a car comes in and it goes through, we've got a set of parts there that meet at least the bare minimum requirement that we would use. So we don't have people running back and forth all the time, trying to speed up that process as well. But go ahead, Sandy, with Michael.
Well, no, he uses the blockchain comment to make a point. We've got to get as close to blockchain process with sales to service and back to sales again as we possibly can. And it's a great point, because that technology is all based on trust that everybody in the internal process is going to be performing their task in a timely, efficient, and effective way so that they don't have to think about, did service get it through effectively? Jim follows up that with 72 hours minimum recon. Yeah, I would agree. That's more realistic in today's day and age with what we've got going on. Chris and I followed the same 48-hour turnaround time for service, but I think 48 to 72 is certainly ideal. I see it as many as 5 to 7 days in some operations. And when you start to focus on it, it's just like a camera. What you choose to focus on is what develops. And that's why Rob Ruth has had such a tremendous amount of success in trimming down the amount of time it takes to get a vehicle from actual purchase or acquisition to getting it onto the lot ready for retail sale.
I want to know how many dealers are watching and or general managers who would take their office and say, and then have two other people, their purchasers, because Adam brings up a good point, focus on buying. And buying's the key to this process, right? How many of them are willing and put such an importance on it that they put the two people or the one person that's responsible for buying all day right there front and center in their office? I mean, it's right there in his office. It's bumper to bumper desk back to back there. And they are sitting there working together on this. So he leads by example, and his team knows all the way throughout the organization his commitment level to this philosophy, to this strategy.
That's the focus piece. That's the focus piece right there. Everybody knows what the mission is, and it's mission critical, right? So I go back to it. It's using information communication to deliver results you're looking for.
Yeah. All right, got a few more comments I'm trying to get. And Doug, we only let you plug it with the. We're only letting you plug it one time with the link. All right.
Come on now, Doug.
So,
Tap the brakes, baby. Tap the brakes.
So what else haven't we discussed, Chrys, that you can think of, whether it's conventional or even unconventional? If buying is such a focus, like Adam said, what are some of the unconventional? I mean, working the CRM, working the service drive.
How about advertising for other people's lease returns?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Advertise for other people's lease returns. It's a part of the dealership that, it's sometimes it's treated like it's a nuisance, right? I got another customer coming in. I got one in finance. Can't be bothered with this right now. Or my parking, I don't have a parking space. I can't take anymore. You didn't buy that from me. Like that. That's a lot of the dealerships that we've been walking in. That's kind of the mindset.
Beast.
Forget
Beast
about
mode.
that. Take them in, advertise for it. How cheap is Facebook advertising? What if it said we take everybody's lease returns? That's how we use the service department and bring them in for service. Let's do the same thing for lease returns and look at everything for everybody. Now, granted, you're going to have a relationship with the Kia dealer next door in order to turn in their Kia. I mean, it could get out of control, but right now, if you're really looking for what you want, then tell them what brands that you want and recommend that they bring them to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, you're overpaying in many instances. I'll put that in quotes, overpaying at the auction these days. Everybody's telling me that they're just, blown away by the numbers at the auction. Why not just jumpstart that process and go straight to the leasing company and say, listen, I'm willing to buy it. And I couldn't agree more.
The We Buy Cars ad worked fantastic. One of the dealerships I worked at, we went for a change and we decided we were going to start selling a lot more in the under $10,000 range. And We Buy Cars opened that up tremendously. Obviously, you have to have quality people that sort through that and it gets into the shop. So there's other logistical things that goes with that. But I got a lot of swings at the plate. Let's put it that way. So another area in which we were able to increase some inventory acquisition, relatively easy and definitely cheaper than going to the auction.
Yeah, and I tell you, we're always talking about, getting our salespeople to be more productive in this business. I hear this conversation every single day. There's not a day that passes we don't have that conversation where we want our salespeople to be hyper productive. And I'd love for them to be getting on the phone, not just to our customers. How about every single person that they know, right? We talk about in the Northeast, we've got 2.1 to 2.3 cars in every single driveway. Get on the phone and start. I love the own the driveway concept that we built over at Applied Selling Dynamics, right? Which is we've sold them a car, but there's 1 to 2 other cars in every single driveway. How about a very simple phone call that says, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, this is Sandy over at Cerami Automotive. I'm just checking to see how everything's going with your 2020 Camry. By the way, we're doing a quick informal survey here at the dealership. What other brands do you folks have in the driveway over there? And start a conversation. You never know what they're going to say. They may say they have a 2013, Ford Explorer with 44,000 miles on it. And my next comment is, would you be willing to listen to a cash offer on a vehicle just like that? We're actually looking for quality pre-owned vehicles. I mean, that is such a simple way, and it's in my opinion going to save you some money in terms of the acquisition side more often than it'll cost you money. Make sense?
So, yeah. So, hey, Jim's got a good question on here. So, as it relates to titles, how many problems since COVID? In other words, what's the DMV time on getting titles?
Yes.
Has you guys seen that? I'm embarrassed to say I'm not in the weeds enough at the dealership level to know the answer to that. So you guys are. What do you
Chris,
see?
you want me to take that, or you want to take it?
Go ahead.
So I will tell you, it varies from state to state, right? I don't think anybody's got it worked through right now. I know that New Jersey and New York, very specifically New Jersey and New York, is a little bit of a disaster. So all I can say to you is,
taking it, Scott.
What's that?
Did I lose you guys?
No, we got you.
I got you. Yeah. So I'm seeing it varies from state to state. Right now I have a high concentration of client engagements in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and Pennsylvania, and we're seeing delays in all 4 of those states. I'm hearing about it in other states as well. And so the answer is you just got to kind of grin and bear it and push where you have to push. But there is certainly an issue with respect to title processing right now.
And, Doug brings up a good thing with advertising low cost oil changes, bring them in. But, one of the challenges with relying solely on oil changes, and we've discussed this in previous D-Wins, is the fact that the frequency of the need of an oil change isn't there the way it used to be, right? It's no longer every 3,500 miles the way Toyota and Honda used to do such a good job conditioning customers for preventative maintenance. That's not the case anymore. And so what's going to be there for the dealers that they will have to do, and that can add to that and get people coming back? And I think David Boyle with Tire Profilers.
You just get out of my head. You're right in my head. I spoke to them this morning. Yes.
So, give us some comments on that, Sandy. What do you think on that? Because I think Doug's on the right direction. In other words,
he is. He is. He's on the right track. We're just going to shift it over one rail. We were on with David Boyle this morning for about an hour and a half. I always love talking to him. And we were talking about, the convergence of the end of the warranty period from the manufacturer, with the life cycle of a tire and how it's the single biggest defection point in every dealership. And so I think there's an opportunity there, whether it's a free tire inspection, something along those lines where it's no cost, if not low cost. And as you said before, the intervals between oil changes continue to expand. You can go a year without seeing a customer on an oil change right now. It's amazing, but tires becomes a big opportunity, I think, for all of us. A free alignment check, is huge as well, because in the Northeast, we've got tremendous issues with potholes and roads that are in complete disrepair. You've got to get really creative in terms of looking for opportunities to get folks to come into the drive and have a look at their vehicle.
So what I like about on the tire front of this is we've spent a lot of time talking about ways to get more inventory and get the right inventory, and through service and equity mining and other tools to get that done have all come up. Tires are a big expense. And so when someone's coming in and let's say they've got an equity position where they can get out of their vehicle, get into a newer vehicle, when you're staring at a big tire expense versus can I take that money, right, and put it down on a new car and maybe upgrade my car for lower than whatever I'm paying for right now, a lot of customers might take that up, especially when they get the new warranty. They know they're not going to be coming out of pocket for the next 3 years. All the things we know what to say in terms of spinning as to why someone should trade out and trade up their car, right? But I think tires are a big thing, and I think dealers miss the boat. There are a lot of dealers out there that do a good job on tires, but then there are a lot that don't want to be in the tire business. I'm going to let Chrys back in here. Don't want to be in the tire business. And
we had that conversation at length this morning with David, and a lot of great points that I'm not going to go into right now because I think it's for a future D-Win session for certain. But what I would say to you is that you're absolutely right. When you take a look at what the average cost is to replace a full round of rubber on a car, along with a four-wheel alignment, which if you're not doing that, you're just not doing it properly. You actually start to creep into what just about an average initial investment is on your average lease. And so if you can put somebody into a newer vehicle or a new vehicle with a similar or a lower payment to what they're paying right now with about the same money as it would take to replace the tires, we're going to replace those tires anyway on a reconditioning ticket. We get a vehicle that we can purchase and put into inventory. And so I would start to have those types of conversations where I draw the correlation between what it's going to take to actually invest in the maintenance of the vehicle versus, or if you're at lease termination, why would you put the money towards the tires? We're going to buy the car anyway, So there's a lot of different ways you could spin that.
Yeah, and so the one thing I liked with the tire stuff is we talked about it for improving frequency. We've talked about it on previous shows about improving frequency. But here's another twist: if you're getting into the tire business, it can be used as a way to somewhat help you, find cars for all the things you said, Sandy. So I mean, there's a lot to be said that it's getting harder and harder for a dealer, I think, to say I don't want to be in the tire business.
Well, most of them are telling you that they don't want to lose money on tires. I get that. The truth of the matter is that we said it today. We'll take a shorty or a loser deal on a car that we can replace any time of the day on the new vehicle side in non-COVID times, or an older age pre-owned vehicle as well, non-COVID times. We'll take a short deal in the front if we can make it up in the back end. It's no different with tires, right? Take the short deal on the tires because all the other work that comes along with it, plus the retention factor of keeping them in your service department family and ultimately sell them another vehicle over the long haul is worth every dollar that you quote unquote lose from selling tires.
Correct. All right. The
Millennial Whisperer has returned. He snuck back in. The Millennial Whisperer
is back. We have a technical issue there, Chris?
We did.
By the way, Scott, you want to know why we call him the Millennial Whisperer?
I do want to know.
So, and Chris, you can chime in anytime you want, but one of the things that I would talk to him about all the time is I see a lot of my clients and at times me struggle with younger folks we're having a challenge in communicating with them effectively and getting them to share the same values that we have. And Chris said to me, well, we created them, dummy. So, let's not get upset with them. Let's not call them names. Let's not say that they're lazy. And one of the things I've watched him do with some of the younger folks in the training sessions that he and I have done together over the last couple of months is I've watched him key into what they value most. And then he in a very creative way, turns it right around and ties it to what we value most. And he's able to get them to look at things from a different perspective. So that's why I have dubbed him the Millennial Whisperer, and he will not be able to shake that moniker, I promise you.
If it only worked at home as well.
You created him, bro. What can I tell you? I'll use your own line on you.
I have to say, I did not create millennials. So I just want, but I think I'm younger than you, Sandy.
You remind me every day, bro. I'm tired of hearing it.
What's the generation after the millennials? What is it? Gen something?
Well, you got Gen X. We're Gen X. The 13th generation, Gen Y, the millennials, and then maybe the lost generation. I have no idea.
So, all right. So we're running out here. We're coming up on 4:00, and we want to be respectful of everyone's time. One thing that we've got, I want to throw in a thing here. I posted this on LinkedIn and a couple other social channels. We've got the Fourth Box, which is a spinoff of D-Win. It's a very exclusive thing in terms of we've had some great dealers and general managers on there.
Yeah.
And I have to say,
last night was no exception.
No, it was great. And hopefully we've provided them as much value as they're giving us, because the conversations, the camaraderie and the business over a bourbon cigar, but just the ideas and the strategies that come from those sessions, it's a true mastermind. But on October 2nd, we've got a bunch of dealers coming in, not a bunch, a small group, where we set up a couple round tables.
I like to call it a select group, Scott, a select group.
It is. And this is going to be some high-powered people. It will be a strong mastermind, and we're going to tackle a lot of different topics that I think are important to dealers. But we're going to mix in a little fun, too, with a bourbon tour, thoroughbred tour, some bourbon tastings, and some things such as that.
Don't sleep on Jeff Ruby's. Jeff Ruby's, to me, is like that's the Mecca for me in Louisville. I love Jeff Ruby's.
We're hitting that Friday night. I secured that today to make sure. We put it up on the thing before I secured the invite, but the reservation. But we're good to go there.
That's called an optimist, my friend.
I will let you. We got a couple more comments here. Then I'll let you kind of close us out, Sandy. Zero profit if parts doesn't have it.
Yeah, there you go.
He's talking about the tires.
I got it.
Yep,
he's right.
Gen X, then Gen Y, Z, then millennials. All right. So
thank you, Squire. Thank God we have smart people that participate in D-Win, because Scott and I, we spit the bit every once in a while. And I only use that because he's in Louisville.
All right. So I don't have my calendar up. When's our next date for D-Win, Sandy?
Now you put me on the spot. Let me get my calendar up. Hold on one second. That sounds like a personal problem. It is not, I promise you. Let me see here. Next D-Win looks like it's going to be live from Louisville, Kentucky at the J&L headquarters with you and me and my man in the third box today, Mr. Mulligan, as well as Jay-Z, Jamil Zabadeh, because we're going to be on site. We're going to be doing some work with your team. I'm excited about that. I cannot wait to get out there and work with the crew over at J&L and share some time with them. So I thank you for that opportunity, buddy.
Man, we're looking forward to it. We're thanking you. Jamil's at his side gig right now with his side income. He's down at, I think he's at an
I
auction.
noticed that. Let me tell you, I noticed that rubs him the wrong way just a little bit. He never responds when you talk about the side gig. I know it's a little dig, and he feels it.
That's why I keep doing it. It's just my little passive aggressive dig at him, which I love to do.
I love it. Yeah.
So we'll close out here with our hold on here. There it is. Ted won. That's right. Thank you, Adam. And by the way, Adam's coming in. He confirmed today he's coming in for the Fourth Box Live event.
Made my day, Adam Aarons, double A in the house.
He goes, but I don't do bourbon. And I said, Adam, I will corrupt you into bourbon and cigars. He goes, I already have the humidor. I do the cigars. He goes, or have done the cigars. He goes, but I'm tequila. And I'm saying, well, we got that too. We're not.
Well, Scott, wait a second. First of all, you have to share with the D1 audience, because I know that going back generations to the old country with your family, you've got a way to actually distill virtually anything and turn it into bourbon. How would you turn tequila into bourbon? I'm curious.
Well, I've got to find a good house bourbon. So what I like to do is I've got, and there's a little spot in the backyard, and the poor people that have been on the Fourth Box are going, oh God, we got to hear this again. But
Sorry.
I take my house bourbon, not my good bourbons, just my house bourbon. And I like to take it. This is for you, Adam. I take it out to the backyard, and if the sun's hitting just right and it hits this one spot, I bend over, I grab a little bit of the soil, and I take my bourbon and I just kind of sprinkle that dirt in there. And then within about 3 or 4 minutes, I get tequila. It's strange.
It never gets old for me. I know the rest of them are saying again, but for me, it never gets old. I don't know. I'm easy to please. That's all I can tell you.
So
I'm excited about it. Listen, we got to let people know that Matty Kellogg's coming in, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yep, and he's going to do a lot of help with us on the Google My Business, topic on there, because that's an opportunity. And what's great about it's a free opportunity with dealers. And if you go through any type of search and you look at most dealers, 90% of the dealers on their Google My Business page fall way short of where they could be. It's free. It's easy leads. And so we're going to go see these guys.
There you go.
But I'm really looking forward to that, because that's always one of the hotter D-Win topics as well. So
yeah, no doubt.
Looking forward to that. So we'll play this. We'll play our little Fourth Box video. We'll close it out. We'll see everybody again on the.
Thank you, Chrys Mulligan. Appreciate it.
Listen, the Fourth Box isn't for everybody. It's only for those people that want to have fun, have a bourbon, smoke a cigar, and come up with absolutely ingenious business and brainstorming ideas.
I could do this all night long, guys.
I love to be a disruptor.
The first guy that gets that done is the winner.
You can't get any better than this. But don't worry, whatever happens in the Fourth Box stays in the box, baby.
This is some good shit. These notes are big.
I love it. I love it.
All right, guys. We will see you. And Matt just said there, got new stuff coming on Google My Business. So we're looking forward to that. And we're going to get him back on D-Win as well. So if you can't get here on the 2nd, let us know. But
Scott, if they want more information on D-Win Live in Louisville, Kentucky on 10/2, 10/3, what's the easiest place for them to go get it?
Just go to dealershipwin.com. You see it on the banner down there. And once you're on our site as well, if you go up under experiences, you'll see the live event stuff with the Fourth Box and more information on there as well. And you can register and stuff. Now, this is exclusive to dealers, GMs, marketing managers, fixed ops and service managers. This is not going to be a mastermind of vendors and stuff like that. So it should be a really good
dealers only, or dealer personnel only.
Yeah, we've got some heavy hitters.
Brad Mugg, that's right. Brad Mugg coming in too.
Ed Roberts. I mean, so we've got a great group of people. So it'll be a great a great mastermind.
Looking forward to it.
All right, guys, we will see you on the 1st. Chrys Mulligan, thank you very much, buddy. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Way to
guys.
step up to stand out, people. We're out.